Hey logical thinkers! Welcome back to Maths with SAS, where we solve puzzles using pure logic. Today's challenge is simple yet tricky. Can you find the next picture in this series? No math required, just pattern recognition. So pause the video and try it yourself before I reveal the answer. Let's analyze what's happening here. Picture 1 has one purple square. Picture 2 has two purple squares. Picture 3 has three purple squares. This continues up to 5 purple squares in picture 5. So logically, picture 6 should have 6 purple squares. But wait! There's more to the pattern than just counting. These purple squares aren't just randomly placed. They follow a diagonal pattern. Let's break it down. The 3x3 grid has 5 diagonals. The first diagonal gets 1 square. The second diagonal gets 2 squares. The third diagonal gets 3 squares. Likewise, the fifth diagonal gets 1 square. But what happens when a diagonal can't fit all the squares? When a diagonal fills up, the remaining squares wrap around to the next available diagonal. Let's start with picture 1. It has only one purple square placed in the first diagonal. This is our starting point. Now, let's move to picture 2. In picture 2, we now have 2 purple squares, one more than before. Instead of staying in the first diagonal, they move to the next diagonal. So we can already guess. The number of purple squares is increasing. The placement follows the diagonal pattern. Now in picture 3, we have 3 purple squares, and guess what? They fit exactly along the next diagonal. So far, we see a clear pattern. 1 purple square in the first diagonal. 2 purple squares in the second diagonal. 3 purple squares in the third diagonal. Now let's move to picture 4. This is where things get tricky. Now here's the first challenge. We need to place 4 purple squares, but the fourth diagonal can only hold 2 squares. What happens next? Since we can't fit all 4 purple squares in one diagonal, the remaining squares wrap back to the first diagonal. So now we have: fill the fourth diagonal with 2 squares. Move 1 square to the next diagonal. Wrap back to the first diagonal for the last square. Now let's check if this rule continues in picture 5. In picture 5, we have to fill 5 purple squares. Using the same logic, we need to start with next diagonal. Since for the picture 4 we end with diagonal 1, now we have to start with diagonal 2. So it can hold 2 squares. The remaining squares move to the next diagonal 3. Here we can fill another 3 in the diagonal 3. So total 5 squares are filled using diagonal 2 and 3. The pattern is clear now. Each time we have to increase the number of squares by 1. Move to the next diagonal. Wrap around if needed. Now let's use this rule to predict picture 6. For the picture 6, we follow the same rules. Since the picture 5 end in diagonal 3, so we start with next diagonal, which is fourth diagonal. It can hold 2 squares. The remaining squares move to the next diagonal. We can fill another one in diagonal 5. Since all are full, wrap back to the first diagonal for the leftover squares. We can fill another square. Up to now we have filled 4 squares. Another 2 to fill. The remaining squares move to the next diagonal. We can fill the remaining 2 in the diagonal 2. And there you have it. Picture 6 is complete. So the correct answer is B. Now it's your turn. Can you draw picture 7 following this pattern? Drop your answer in the comments below, and I'll pin the first correct response. If you enjoyed this logic puzzle, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new math puzzle. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.